Hey everybody, this is my 55-gallon T-bar tank, and today we are going to do both a before and after video. We're going to do a big water change in there, but we're also going to do a reveal video. So let's get started with the reveal, and then we can talk about the water change, because the reveal is going to be sort of why we're doing the water change. So let me get around the stuff I've still got out here in the middle of the floor, at least try to. So there are my two new angelfish. The larger one that you can see broadside right now is a green giant, and then the smaller one on the bottom that's being difficult is a white crystal. It's either a crystal white or a white crystal. I can never remember what it was called now. I usually just call it a crystal white because it just looks crystal white. It is definitely not an albino. It is just a pure white angelfish. It's absolutely stunning. It's almost silvery white. So I cannot wait till that one matures. And then of course this green giant is going to be amazing too. So there's two of the fish that I had. I already did the reveal video of the other fish. They are in my gourami tank. If you haven't seen that, I'll go ahead and attach a card right here and you can go check out the new fish I've got in that tank. So the reason we're doing a water change is, well, several-fold. One is the filter really needs to be changed, because you can still see I'm dealing with these white worms floating everywhere. They're simple detritus worms. They're harmless. I'm not worried about them. They're just ugly, and the fact that they're there is showing me that something's out of whack. So I suspect that my filter is full of them, or they're breeding in the filter or something. I'm not sure. It hasn't been that long since I've done a filter change on this tank, but we're going to do a big filter change today, and we're going to do a big water change because we're also going to get in there and I'm going to scrub down these leaves a little more with a toothbrush, and when the water gets low enough I'm going to spray them with hydrogen peroxide again. It didn't make a huge difference last time, but it did make a difference, and so I'm going to get in there and do that again. If I can beat it back a little bit further, you know, maybe next water change I'll try to beat it back a little bit further, and then maybe with the help of that rubber lip, maybe even add another rubber lip or some similar pleco. Maybe we can get on top of all this gross crud that grows in this tank. And then of course I may also treat this tank in due time for cyanobacteria using the Ultralife Blue Green Slime Stain Remover. That's a good product. I'm actually using it in my Black Ghost Knifefish tank at the moment. We're treating that tank for the cyanobacteria, so you can look forward to a video of that tank coming up here real soon too. So lastly, I want to get in there and do enough of a water change that we really ruin this guy's day, and we really disrupt him. He's been kind of aggressive all day yesterday towards the new angelfish. I sort of expected that. I kept coming in here and just sort of physically separating them with a net every time he was aggressive towards them, or at least every time I saw him being aggressive towards them. Hopefully he sort of started to get the idea not to do that. I don't know how easily you can train a fish to sort of stop being aggressive towards other fish, but I just wanted to do that at least for the first day because there was going to be some pecking order issues. I did shoot some video. I figured I would wait until after I did the reveal before I actually posted the video, but I do have some video of the way they behaved right after they went in the tank, and the way this one behaved right after they went in the tank. And so that kind of behavior persisted all day long, and I turned the lights out early last night, in fact, just because I wanted to kind of call it a night and get everybody put to bed. So I think with him having new fish introduced into his territory, that's not cool. So the idea is going to be that we can get in there today and we can disrupt this tank enough and cause him enough stress and make enough small changes by cleaning the tank up and doing the big water change, and maybe it will feel like the changes just sort of go hand in hand with the new additions, and he'll be less aggressive towards them. He already seems to be less aggressive towards them now. Finally, I want to say that if you look at the very tip of his dorsal fin, you can see it's a little sort of raggedy and torn up. In the time I spent here yesterday watching the tank, I noticed that the red Serpae tetras in here, the red minor tetras they're sometimes called, were being really nippy and aggressive. I know they can be nippy and aggressive, but I've never really seen a whole lot of issue with my fish in this tank. But that was enough issue that they would seem to be nippy and aggressive towards him, and then he would seem to go and be aggressive towards the other angelfish. So today we are also going to get these red Serpais tetra out of the tank, and they're eventually going to end up in my black ghost knifefish tank. I'm just going to have to try to do it really carefully because I don't want to move any of these worms into my black ghost knifefish tank. So we're going to take them out of this tank, we're going to put them into a container, and then we're going to see, maybe I'll treat the container with a little bit of hydrogen peroxide to try to kill the worms, and then I'll try to pour as much of the water off as I can and top it back off, and so on and so forth. And we'll just sort of do that until we can kind of get those fish out of there without transferring any of these worms into my other tank. So let me get started on all this. I got a lot of work ahead of me, and I am also going to try to get out on the kayak this afternoon. It's actually a pretty day out. It's in the 50s, the sun's shining, and I'm probably not going to see too many more days like this, so I'm probably going to go out there as well. So if you're into my outdoors videos, you can probably look forward to seeing one of them in the very near future too. So here is your before, and there's your after. So I never made it out on the kayak yesterday. By the time I got done with the tank, the weather had shifted, temperature had dropped, so I wound up just going out in the backyard and doing some leaf blowing. But I did get in here and I did all the things I wanted to do in the tank. I got those Serpais tetras out of here, which was not really as difficult as I thought it was going to be. My first scoop, I got about 5 of them. They all sort of swam into my big net at the same time. I used 2 nets. I have a very big one. It's like 8 or 9 inches across. And then I use a second one to sort of corral and chase them towards the other net, and they all swooshed inside, and I scooped most of them out in the first go. And then after that, it was 1 or 2 at a time until I got them all collected up. And then I did what I said I was going to do. I took a bucket of tap water. I didn't use any of the water from the tank that might have contained any of those worms. And, you know, I'm sure I scooped some of them up in the net, but I did my best to just get the fish out of the net into the fresh water. I then very carefully poured off as much of the water as I could, you know, to pour out any worms that might have been in there. I topped the container back up, poured the water off again, and I did that 2 or 3 times until I decided the fish had had enough stress. And then I once again poured off as much water as I could until they had just enough water to be in, and then I took them and put them in my black ghost knifefish tank. So I am still a little concerned about that tank and the water circulation in there, but that's for another video. We'll get to that at some point because I do have to do some work in that tank today, so we'll get onto that in a little while. But as far as this tank goes, we've got a reduction in worms finally. This is now my 3rd major water change, and the filter change I think was probably most significant. The filter was really, really gross, so it's obviously been longer than I thought since I've done a filter change on it. I mean, it was gross. I had to like peel the stuff, you know, the liner from each tray just sort of like peeled off the bottom like it was a sheet of slime. You could hardly even tell that it used to be a filter. So it was pretty gross. I don't know how long it's been since I've changed it, but it was definitely more than the month or 2 that I was saying. I'm guessing probably closer to 3 or 4 months. It was nasty. So that is probably a contributing factor to where the worms were coming from, and hopefully it'll be significant in reducing them now that I got all that gross filth out of there. I'm still probably not going to worry too much about, you know, vacuuming the gravel and trying to get those last few worms out of there. Again, they're not really an issue. They're just unsightly. So if I can keep getting them out of here little by little, and we'll get the tank back to, you know, they might be in there in the gravel, but as long as I can't see them, that's fine with me. Lastly, I tried to do some scrubbing on the leaves. We'll get up here and get a little closer look. I am still getting some aggression, as you can see. That's not unusual. They are angelfish. I was expecting some. As long as I'm not seeing torn fins and, you know, injury, stress issues, that sort of thing, then I'm not going to worry too much about it. They'll sort their pecking order out. They'll find their little areas of the tank to stay in. These 2 smaller ones might pair off, and just, even if they're both males, they might just kind of grow up together as a form of defense against this much larger one over here. Where'd he go? There he is. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I am keeping my eye on it. I don't have a whole lot of other options, so if the aggression continues too much, There's not a lot I can do, but hopefully I'll be able to get on top of that, and we won't have too much in the way of aggression in here. The leaves on the Anubias in there, that crud is really on there. That stuff is really difficult to tackle. So I tried it with my toothbrush a little bit, and it wasn't having a ton of success. So I decided I wasn't going to waste a whole lot of time scrubbing on it with the toothbrush. So I did the hydrogen peroxide again. Once the water level got down pretty low, I then sprayed all of the exposed surfaces of the leaves with the hydrogen peroxide. I let it sit for a few minutes before I started topping the tank back off, and then I just went ahead and filled the tank back up. And right as the tank was beginning to fill back up, I hit it with hydrogen peroxide again to sort of rinse the used up stuff off of the leaves and give it a fresh coat. So as the tank filled, the leaves surfaces were covered with bubbles, and I tried to put enough hydrogen peroxide into the tank that it would be enough to probably kill some of the worms. I don't think it necessarily was enough to clear out the worms, but the worms are very, very small organisms, and only a little bit of hydrogen peroxide would be enough to start working on killing them. So that might have had some of the impact. Simply cleaning the tank and doing the massive water change had a big impact, and I'm sure doing that huge filter change had a big impact as well. So there you go. There was your before and after look. I am going to be getting on with doing some work on my Black Ghost Knifefish tank, so you should check out my Patreon page. I've said before, if you want to follow me there without actually subscribing, then you'll get the release of all my YouTube videos automatically. I forgot another one of them the other day. I forgot to post it after it had been on Patreon for 2 days, so it was like 3 or 4 days before it actually got posted on my YouTube channel. So if you follow me over at Patreon, you would have just been notified after 48 hours. It automatically goes public over there, so whether you subscribe or not, you'll still get the first look at my videos when they pop up over there. And I do some public stuff that's, you don't have to be a subscriber in order to see. But for the most part over there, if you want to get the real benefit of the Patreon experience, then you need to go over there and subscribe and check that out. So thanks for watching this one once again. And don't forget to subscribe here to my YouTube channel as well. And don't forget, this one is my T-bar tank. So thanks again for watching. See you real soon in the next one.